Hello, and hopefully we are live and streaming well. Welcome to Scarf Sessions, where we have conversations with people shaping the landscape in open source and open source sustainability. I'm Christina Gorton. I am a developer relations manager at Scarf, and I am here today with Avi, our CEO. Avi, you want to say something about yourself real quick?
Hi there. I'm the founder of Scarf. Building lots of tools that I wish I had when I was trying to build and maintain open source projects. And now I get to highlight all the other people who are doing it much better than I ever could.
Awesome. Then our special guest today is Tanner Linsley, who we are going to talk about a lot of things with, but we do have a little bit of a shorter time today, so we may talk another time. So if you see us stopping this a little bit shorter than we expected, that's why. But Tanner, please tell us about yourself before we get started.
I've been doing open source for a little over 5-6 years. Started a company 8 years ago with some friends. Just a real open source junkie. Lots of TypeScript, JavaScript, React, anything I can get my hands on in the front end world. So yeah, that's where I spend most of my time.
Cool. Yeah, I first heard of you and your work when some coworkers were talking about React Table, which must have been, I think, at the beginning of 2018. They were talking about it, and you had published some other things, and they were like, just kind of like, wow, Tanner's very productive. And they were, talking about how good React Table was. And it seems like since then you've had like a really steady but meteoric rise in the open source space with React Table and React Query and stuff. And so I'm curious what you would attribute like just the growth of TanStack to mostly. Like, is it just that the libraries are good, or are there certain
React
things
Table and React Query probably?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to boil it down. React Table is kind of the first library I built that took off a little bit, and people started to like. So it was kind of like one of my initial entries into like open source, actually having a package that people want to use. And then with React Query, that was the kind of the bigger push, kind of a hockey stick into a lot more users. It was a very general purpose library for React, so it drew a very large audience. I thought it was pretty great. Apparently other people did too. And yeah, so the rest is just kind of history. I didn't really have to push it too hard. It was just a lot of good timing and trial and error.
The timing of that, like, how did you launch these libraries originally? Like, how did you, was it literally just like put it out there and like post on Twitter and that's it? Or like, were there more things that you did to,
Like, what does it mean to launch? I mean, everything I do is pretty off the cuff anyway. So, one day I was using it internally in my startup and I looked at it and I said, hey, it works. It's pretty good. I should probably release this. I threw it into an open source library. I published it to NPM. I got on Twitter and I said, hey, everybody, check this out. It's that's kind of how I've done a lot of my releases too. I like doing it that way. Like, I don't need to make too big of a fuss over it. I did make a video for one of my open source libraries recently, React Location, and that was fun. It's mostly just because I wanted to like make a hype video. It's just fun to do. It didn't need one. It was kind of a little overcompensation maybe, but it was a lot of fun. So
very cool. And what is React Location? I'm not familiar with that one myself. I'm sure maybe others aren't too.
React Location is an alternative router for React. That's not React Router, I guess, because there's not a lot of them out there. Yeah. It before, so Remix came out and they had a lot of great like asynchronous routing features in Remix. I wanted to bring those into a routing experience, and I needed like way more control over search params to the extent that no other router I've seen has. So I built this custom router from the ground up to have like really good search param support and control over URLs and URL generation. I honestly just kind of tacked on the async stuff because I was like, oh, this is cool. Remix did that. I want to try it out. So I just kind of threw in the asynchronous stuff and it works pretty well. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I'm using it in my start. I needed it mostly for the search param support. So that's why that's what I'm using it mostly for today. And as soon as that was ready, I was like, okay, let's release it. So just threw it out there, and it's not like this, huge push forward in routing or anything like that. A lot of these concepts have been around for a while, but a lot of it just has to do with the API and my own opinions, and just the way that I wanted more control over things. So
that makes a lot of sense. I very much kind of resonate with the experience of like, building tools that you need for yourself, or, tools that, your company needs or something like that as a way to build just things that are valuable to other people in general. If it's useful to you, you might, put it out there. It might be useful to others too, is exactly how I got my first projects that had any kind of traction beyond just me using them. Was just tools that I wanted to build as well. And I've had a lot of other people come to me and say like, what's the best way to like find the right idea or something. I usually just say build things that you want.
I think that's kind of the wrong way to approach open source anyway. Like if you're looking for a nail, like I just don't think that's the right way. I'd rather solve a real problem and do something that's actually going to move the needle for users or a product than be like, oh, I wonder what I could build in open source. You just kind of, I feel like you kind of come up with half-baked ideas and you're probably just innovating to innovate, it's, I don't think there's as much drive and inspiration when you do that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's, I don't know if you're aware, Tanner, but it is Maintainer Month this month. And I'm wondering, because you all are both talking about, put open source projects out there and things. How have I'm someone who does a lot of content, and in the past I've told like students or people I've worked with, like sometimes you just got to put the content out there. It might not be perfect and things like that. Do you have advice for like when there's like open source projects on like just putting your stuff out there? I think a lot of people are scared to put project not perfect yet, or where they think it should. Have advice on that at all?
I can only give advice on what works for me. And the best way that I can do it is you just kind of have to remove yourself from your code. Like you are not your code. And it's okay if people look at your code and think it's crappy or judge it or whatever. Honestly, you should be just as judgy of your own code as they are. But it's not you. It just represents, an attempt at solving a problem. And it's always an attempt, right? Things are going to get better. In some ways, I publish things to be open source because I want them to get better, and I know that they're flawed. By pushing them into the open source ecosystem, I get a lot of eyeballs on it, and in a way outsource a lot of the difficult tasks of problem solving to those who care about it as much as I do. So like nothing is ever going to be perfect enough to release into the open source world as like a true product. Like it's not going to be ready until you release it and get other people interested in it to iterate on it with you. So it's a chicken and egg problem, but you definitely have to put forth the effort. Get rid of your ego and just kind of say, here it is,
Yeah, I very, very much agree with that. And I think that translates to that's not just open source, I think too. That's like anything that you're putting out there in the world, like the feedback is the good thing. And the sooner you get the thing out there, the sooner you get that feedback and the sooner you can build something that's actually great. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I guess like on that note of other products and things, like you are also a startup founder, and but we also see, with things like your GitHub sponsorships and, the courses that you're putting out there, like you are trying to also build, something of a business around your open source as well, to whatever degree you see yourself as doing that. And I guess I'm curious, like why try to do both? Why are you trying to, build a financially sustainable open source project in addition to the startup life?
I think you just answered your own question, but I'll help you understand it. Like, I'm definitely not. I don't really feel like I'm trying to build a business around my open source stuff, but really, what I am trying to build though is a sustainable model for those problems and those solutions, right? And no one ever said that money didn't help solve sustainability, right? You get money in the mix, it just helps a lot of things. It really does. And people are afraid to talk about it, but that's the truth. And like right now, I am able to sponsor a lot of like devs that help me out. You know, if you're a developer and you want to sink your teeth into a good side project and make cash on the side, come work on some TanStack libraries, because we have great sponsors, you know, and I definitely want those projects to live on, and that's a great way to do it, because I'm just one person. So there's some really bright minds that have kind of organically joined TanStack to kind of help carry things forward. Dominic Dorfmeister is one who, he basically just takes care of React Query these days. You know, if you're, the next version of React Query that's coming out very soon is basically his brainchild. So
very cool.
I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of him, and I'm just proud of what it's been able to accomplish, you know, and I've just kind of been able to just sit back and watch this amazing, you know, progression happen on its own. And Dominic is just one of the brightest minds, I think, in the ecosystem. So I want to see that happen for more projects, you know, and even if they're not mine, that you know, something that I wrote or I came up with, I want TanStack to be, you know, somewhat of a, like an open source home, if you will, for great projects where they can come and actually survive and get taken care of. So that's mostly a side effect of all of those goals. Is yes, we have sponsors and we have courses, and it's going to look and feel like a business, and that's fine. I don't really intend on raising $3 million for TanStack, or I don't, you know, it's not like a company that I want to sell, or I'm not trying to get it to, you know, 50,000 MRR or anything like that. It's more of just a hobby thing, you know? And like I already get plenty of that with my startup Nozzle. Like I don't need more of that. It's a busy life. And yeah, so it's a side effect. It's a good one. And you know, to kind of cap that off, I would say I would not suggest going into open source as a full-time job, like unless you want to be poor for a little while. But there are ways to find sustainability in it that I find are mostly supplementary to, you know, to other things. But there are sustainable ways, and they're getting better. Hopefully, soon it won't be that difficult if you do want to go full-time open source. But you know, that's why we're all pushing for. We're trying to.
Yeah, we're all working hard on it. Yeah, I think a really good point that you made in there is just I think a lot of people have a very preconceived notion about like what introducing money into an open source project means. And I think a lot of people go straight to like oh man, this, you know, there's going to be a very huge VC funding thing for this, and it's going to turn into this completely different thing that we don't like. But you know, I think for, you know, every one of those stories, there's you know, a lot more projects, I think, you know, just like yours, where it's just, you know, one or a couple of people that are just trying to, you know, build something sustainable that they can work on the side of whatever else that they are doing, and enabling that, I think, will be really just good for everybody. It's good for the people building this stuff. It's good for people using and relying on this stuff, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and you know, some of it crosses over, and obviously Scarf. Like we should talk about Scarf, but like if you have a great product and people rely on your product, and it's helping them make money, and or helping their developers, or saving them time or whatever, like there's always an avenue for revenue somewhere if you have something that is in demand. And sorry about the dog.
We love dogs. It's okay.
Right. And you know, and part of that is being able to find and know who those people are that are using your stuff. And so far, it's just been kind of like it has been an adventure to try and find those people. You know, a lot of my sponsors today, I had no idea who they were until they approached me. Some of them, you know, I know a lot of companies who use my software, big companies, like you shop at these companies every day, who use my software, and they, you know, the software, the engineers that brought my software into those companies, they don't know, they probably don't even have the tools to, you know, put forth the sustainability. So there's a disconnect there. for sure. And I don't know how much you want to talk about Scarf, but I believe that like the intentions and philosophies around Scarf are in this area are like very noble and interesting. So
well, I'm glad you think so. And I definitely want, the focus of this is definitely more you than Scarf. But yeah, I will, just.
And maybe that can be part 2 if you want.
That could be part 2. But yeah, the 2 cents here is like, people, it's really hard to, go ask for support or, sell a support contract if you don't know who is on the other side of that. And just this little layer of observability can unlock quite a bit of opportunity. And ultimately, that's what we want to make both very easy and very accepted. And also very secure as well. Like there is, there are data privacy concerns in there, and we definitely work very, very hard to address those as much as we can.
If only there was a company that owned the distribution of our NPM packages and knew about all the open source code that could tell us, if only.
Yeah,
if only. But it's okay because they gave me sponsors. They gave me sponsorship, so
yeah,
I'll let it slide for a little longer.
Yeah. So on this, on this front of, you have had a good bit of, you have been fortunate to have some really great sponsors, and you have done some other things to try to, build that financial sustainability for TanStack. What has been the most successful of the things you've tried? What has worked the best?
It's going to sound really simple, but I think companies really like to be seen. People like to be seen for their contributions. And I don't know if you've seen my little sponsor bubble pack that I have on TanStack.com. I think it's really cool. And I think my sponsors think it's really cool too, because it's a very dynamic live visualization that represents my sponsorships coming in. So the bigger your bubble is, the more you're helping out. And in a way, like I've tried to sell that almost as like a partnership real estate space. So, you can change your image and you can tell me where you want it to link to and point to. And it's not just on the GitHub repo, but it's on my website. It's on every project page. It's very prominent. And just that, I think, has been a great way to like let people feel like they're being seen for their sponsorships. And all the other stuff that I've tried and that we still do is still very experimental. We have private sponsorship channels in the Discord server. They don't get used very much. When they do, it's cool. I love it, but they just don't, and not always. Usually the companies that are sponsoring, they have wonderful developers who are super smart. They don't need like my firsthand support on things. Like they're super intelligent people. So like the whole, I'm going to give you support, first class support on things. It works for some companies, but not all of them. It's almost like the more money you have, the less support you need. And so that's been challenging. I've offered, course vouchers in the past for sponsors, like to come take my courses, but I don't want to be an online educator. I don't plan on being an online educator. It's not something I want to do. I've recently outsourced my course collaborations to UI.dev. Like I helped them develop the content and the course structure and the material. And I oversee production of it, but I do not, like, I'm not somebody who wants to make courses and stuff. So that's been something that's been helpful. There's some other ideas around, giving early access to new ideas in GitHub or holding, withholding access to certain repositories on GitHub, but I haven't played around too much with that. I don't like the idea of being that withholding. So yeah, it's just kind of a target. Like, it's just like playing darts. I'm just throwing darts at a dartboard and seeing what sticks, So far the best thing that's stuck has been the most like simple and petty. It's this bubble pack thing on my website.
I love that. Sometimes the simplest thing is the best thing. And it is really cool. If no one's seen it, go to the website, look at it.
And it's not like it's new. Yeah. Like they have that on other sponsorship things, I can't remember what some of the other sponsorship platforms are. off the top of my head, but I know that a lot of repositories do this, that, you put their logo in the README and everything. I think that's great. I just wanted to like take that experience and make it 10 times cooler,
Yeah. So you built the bubbling thing yourself, like from scratch to do this?
Yeah, it's a D3 visualization.
Cool.
So
nice.
Got it.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's pulling from my own API to cache all the GitHub information, and so.
Yeah, that's very neat. Are there any experiments that you are thinking about running soon that would be interesting to talk about, or maybe you're kind of all set with what you have right now?
There's one that's coming up. I don't know how much I should say right now.
Fair enough.
But well, actually, I guess it's kind of public. I won't tell the details of it. But I'm looking into something that could take the sustainability for all my libraries up quite like a big level. And the first one that's happening is with React Table. I will be announcing next week a partnership with AG Grid, which is
cool.
kind of a weird partnership if you don't understand the intricacies of it, which is why we're going to explain it next week. I'm going to explain it at React Summit in my talk. But essentially, I think there's room for libraries to have kind of first-class partnerships with either prominent companies that rely on those libraries or companies that rely on the same audience, or that, some type of a symbiotic relationship between them. And this is one that we have been able to find between React Table and AG Grid, interestingly enough. And it turns out it's probably going to be very helpful to both of us to have this partnership. And I think that there's a lot of room for the other libraries to have that too. I know there's entire other companies and frameworks that, are based on React Query. And maybe you have a chat application and it's just built on the backs of React Virtual. Who knows? At the end of the day, I think there's another tier of partnership, not sponsorship, where you can become more of an integrated and first class part of a library than just saying, here's some money, we want our picture there. Almost like a strategic investor, but for open source. And I'm really excited about exploring that. It's kind of always been there, but no one's given it a great name yet. And I like these. I like the sound of like OSS partner, OSS partnerships. So we'll see how much that catches on. I think that there's a lot to offer companies in general by having kind of these very exclusive opportunities. So.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well to see how that all goes, and if there's anything we can do to help facilitate as well. I think that's
and it seems very sellable too to a large company. So
I'm sure. I am sure. Okay, we're running a little bit low on time here.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tanner, we still have a ton of questions we want to ask you, but we know that you have somewhere you need to be. So
let's do as many as we can before we have to close out, and I'll be as fast as I can.
Awesome. Let's do another question then. Avi, do you want to go, or I can ask?
Go ahead.
Okay. So you were talking earlier about like a lot of the stuff you've been able to have other people take on with like your different projects and things. And it sounds like you're partnering with other people, working with other people. What are your goals for the next 5 years with TanStack? I know you have your other, startup, but what are your goals with TanStack going forward?
I would love to get enough sponsorship to be able to give a few other developers like a really, really good side income. Maybe not a full-time gig, but enough for them to, potentially life-changing money for somebody. Like, I think that would be a great goal. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I think that's a great noble goal. I would like to get all of TanStack to become an agnostic, like a framework agnostic ecosystem. We're working on that right now. And just onward and upward. So
Oh, I think Abby is off, but that's okay. We'll keep going here. No, I love that. I especially love, I've been in the React community for a while now, and I think it's great that you're looking at ways to make it more agnostic. You are now, Abby. You are. We can hear you. Did you want to ask a question? No, he's gone again. Okay. All right, then one more question for you, Tanner, before you hop off. Again, it being maintainer month and everything, how do you handle burnout if you handle burnout? Do you have advice for other maintainers and people out there in open source?
Yeah, if I feel I'm ready to burn out, then I go work on my startup more.
Oh, there you
go. Or just ship something. Like you got to ship something. Shipping is great. It gives you a good high. It's easier to ship stuff with a real product. Like we have real customers at Nozzle. Shipping something new there makes you feel really good. Because usually open source customers just want to complain. So yeah, just like having a healthy balance between, you know, what a hobby is. And I mean, I think you can burn out on any hobby. Open source is kind of just like a hobby. So yeah. Just keep a good balance. Maybe mute your email from GitHub. Stuff like that.
Disable those notifications. I've had to do that.
Give yourself a break. Go in and just rage close all of the pull requests and issues and just say nope.
I got rid of like 400 one time, but I had to do that in one. 400 issues.
Really understandable.
Just be careful. Be careful with that one. But
therapeutic. Well, we are kind of right up at time here. And so, Tanner, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I think there's definitely going to be a part 2 in the works. So everyone listening, please keep an eye out for that. I think on the whole, thank you for listening, and thank you, Tanner.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.